Donna Adelson from Coral Springs, Florida. I want to hear all about you, Donna. Let's go.
Well, I'm a domestic coordinator.
A domestic coordinator?
Yes. I'm responsible for the activities, classes, and lessons of my son Robert, who is 16, Charlie, who is 12, Wendi, who is 10, my husband Harvey, who's in the audience, and my dog Sam.
Donna.
F.
Yes.
Mischief maker.
Yeah, that's it, Donna.
The intention of justice is to see that the guilty people are proven guilty and that the innocent are freed. Only we have a problem here.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the I Don't Belong Here show, and I'm your host, Samantha Beningo. I am a behavioral scientist, a career psychotherapist, a sixth-year PhD candidate in clinical psychology, a master's level psychologist and counselor. And I am here today breaking down the Adelson case. Now, if you have any proclivities towards liking true crime, then you are definitely familiar with the Adelson case, whether you know it or not.
But first, Wendi Adelson on the stand this afternoon testifying as her brother stands trial in the murder of her ex-husband. Charlie Adelson is accused of hiring hitman to kill Wendi's ex-husband, Dan Markel.
So the paper is about the tissue connecting democratic citizenship with retributive justice. And the argument is that contrary to some of the leading criminal law theorists like Michael Moore.
In 2014.
The last witness to testify on Thursday was Wendi Adelson. Now, she is a key figure in this case, and she's named by the state as a co-conspirator in Markel's murder.
Your family had your ex-husband killed to try to help you, didn't they?
No, that's completely untrue.
Wendi Adelson adamant it wasn't her family who killed Dan Markel.
Do you want the culpable parties held accountable for murdering the father of your children?
Absolutely. I'm grateful they're already in jail.
But not if it's your family.
It's not my family.
I mean, somebody hired him, right?
The defense claims Adelson's girlfriend at the time, Catherine Magbanawa, was the mastermind behind the murder. They say she extorted Charlie, going to his home the night of the killing and telling him if he didn't pay within the next 48 hours, he or one of his family members would be next. Wendi said Charlie never told her this.
When did you learn that Catherine Magbanawa was blackmailing your brother for the murder of your ex-husband?
Today.
So he never told you?
No.
During nearly 3 hours of questioning, attorneys referenced comments Charlie Adelson made, saying that buying his sister a TV as a divorce present was cheaper than hiring a hitman.
Now, Wendi Adelson is one of 4 key witnesses we're watching in this trial. The others are the 3 people already convicted in this case: the hitmen, Luis Rivera and Sigfredo Garcia, and Charlie's ex-girlfriend, Catherine Magbanawa. She's twice denied any involvement in the plot, but has now turned state's witness.
And now we have mom, Donna Adelson, and she too is on trial for first-degree murder.
The state's evidence list was posted today. It includes 133 pieces of evidence that prosecutors intend to present at trial. Among them, we're going to get a look at travel visas that the Adelsons got to go to Vietnam. Donna Adelson was arrested as she and her husband Harvey were boarding a one-way flight to Vietnam back in November of 2023. Adelson is accused in the murder for hire of her former son-in-law, Dan Markel.
Now, the big question in this case has pretty much always swirled around how much Wendi Adelson, the ex-wife of the victim, Dan Markel, knew about the plot for him to be murdered. So today, we're going to take a much closer look at the testimony of Wendi Adelson during Charlie Adelson's trial. And the fascinating thing about this testimony isn't so much whether or not she knew this or that about the plot for Dan Markel to be murdered, but the family dynamics that emerge as this testimony drones on. Absolutely fascinating. And in this case, the family dynamics are everything. And to me, though I can't tell you definitively why the cops and investigators in this case didn't pursue Wendi Adelson as a suspect in the plot to murder Dan Markel, at least not yet, I can tell you that it is very likely directly because of the very clear family dynamic that they would have seen emerging from collecting all of the information for the investigation. And that's what starts to emerge throughout Wendy's testimony. And that is fascinating. So that is what we're going to look at today. Now, you're going to notice throughout this testimony, they show Charlie quite a bit. And because he's an expressive guy, we get a lot of information from how he reacts to seeing his sister on the stand and to some of the content that comes up as she's talking, as she's being asked questions. One other thing to note, because she's subpoenaed here by the prosecution, she has immunity so that anything that she says on the stand can't be used to prosecute her in the future.
Ma'am, please say and spell your name.
Wendi Adelson, Wendiadelson.
Where are you from, Ms. Adelson?
I'm originally from Coral Springs, Florida.
And where do you live now?
I currently live in Miami.
How are you employed?
Now kind of part-time. I do.
So you're going to notice that he does a fair amount of eye shielding while we go through this, kind of keeping his eyes closed a little longer than might be customary. He blinks quite a bit. And as I said, he's pretty expressive. And because he's kind of doing this thing, we typically associate this kind of behavior where somebody's like rubbing their chin as pensive or like maybe deep in thought. So my guess would be that he's got a lot of thoughts swirling around in his head as he's, listening to the start of his baby sister's testimony.
Asylum work, and I fundraise for nonprofit organizations.
Are you an attorney?
By training, yes.
Okay. How long have you been a member of the Florida Bar?
Since I graduated and took the bar in 2006.
Okay. So right off the bat, what we notice from Wendi Adelson is, right, she's got those big, pretty blue eyes, which comes up in her interrogation. So we know that she knows how to bing, 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 bat them. You'll notice that there's, a feminine, intentional vocal inflection. Okay. And what do we associate that with? With Wendi, it's not seductive as much as it is kind of naivete, innocence. There's something almost childlike in the way that she is presenting herself here.
When I was little, I wanted to be a giraffe.
In particular, as opposed to what we've seen from her in other trials. And that is very interesting.
I'm here today pursuant to a subpoena.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and that subpoena confers use and derivative use immunity to, so nothing you say can be used against you in the future.
That is correct.
Okay. That doesn't mean you have full immunity from prosecution, but nothing you say here and nothing derived from it could be used in that prosecution. Is that your understanding?
That is my understanding.
Did you know Daniel Markell?
Yes.
How did you know him?
We were married.
When did you meet Mr. Markell?
We met in the fall of my second year of law school, so fall of 2004.
And where did you meet?
We met in Washington, D.C.
So you definitely get the vibe here that Charlie's thinking, oh my God, I can't believe that we're in this situation, that my baby sister is having to testify in my murder trial. This is the vibe that we get from Charlie here as Wendi begins to get into the details of this case.
He was working there, and I was looking into a summer job in Washington.
And when did you get married?
In February of 2006.
And when did you live here in Tallahassee?
We lived in Tallahassee my third year of law school, so from August of 2005 until I think around maybe May or June of 2006. And then we moved to Miami for a year because Danny was interested in working at the University of Miami.
Mm-hmm. Now, while it is true that many people referred to Dan Markel as Danny, it seems or comes across as a little inappropriate here. Because remember, if you're the jury, you don't know what Dan Markel went by. But using that very informal way of speaking about him as Danny, it presents their relationship as having more affection between them, as warm, as though that she and he had a decent rapport. Now, she is going back to the beginning of their relationship as she is speaking about him right now. So perhaps she does think of him as Danny in a more affectionate way when she thinks back to the beginning of their relationship. But it does strike me as a bit inappropriate and intentional that she is referring to him in the more cutesy way, the more like pet way that she would have referred to him, despite the fact that that very well might be how she would have referred to him even up through the divorce. So it is, as much as it is true, so she can get away with it, right? There's some plausible deniability. It is also very intentional. What we learn right out of the gate from Wendi Adelson is that she is hyper aware of how she presents to the outside world and how she is able to use her looks to get a reaction from others, particularly from men. While I'll spare you some of the nitty-gritty of how I know that, the clues are in her interrogation videos. So we get some pretty significant indicators that she knows and uses how men react to her. Ding, 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 ding. From that interrogation. So keep that in mind throughout. Now, the very obvious question, how much of this testimony is performative? Is this all a big act, or is this something deeper, something more embedded, more habituated, more long-standing, particularly as it relates to how she shows up in the family dynamic? And as we like to say in psychology, many things can be true at the same time, right? That is what we call a dialectic. Two things that seem maybe on the surface to be opposing can be true at the same time.
He did not get the job at University of Miami, and so we moved back here in 2007 and lived here until 2014.
And where were the two of you employed during the time you lived here in Tallahassee?
I was employed at the FSU Center for Human Rights, and Danny was employed at FSU Law School.
Were you both professors at FSU College of Law?
Yes.
And were you living on Truscott Drive at that time?
When we were married, we lived, I think we rented a house before that, but at some point, maybe in 2008, we moved to Truscott Drive.
And is that the home that he was still living in at the time that he was killed?
That is correct.
Okay, and you were no longer living there, is that correct?
I was no longer living there.
All right, at the time he was killed, you two had children together.
Now, a lot has been made about Wendi Adelson tilting her head at different times throughout her testimony. And what I will say about that, for me, that is part of the performance. It's part of that sort of like innocent persona, bing, 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 of how she wants to come across, how she wants you to see her. So there absolutely is some intention, right? It's bing, 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 right? That is how she wants you to perceive her, how she wants to be perceived, to be seen as innocent, as naive, as more childlike.
Yes?
Yes.
And how many children did you have?
We have 2 children.
And what are their ages now?
They are 13 and 14.
What about at the time of their dad's death?
At the time of their dad's death, they were 4 and 3.
When did you separate from Professor Markel?
So here, there's some eye shielding going on, and you might notice that a lot of these early expressions from Charlie, it comes across as a combination of like sadness, some regret, definitely some shame, which may even get stronger as we get through some of the evidence. And it's funny because he sort of has this sad look on his face, but then he looks at her and something kind of tickles his funny bone. And then he starts laughing, and then he's trying really hard to hide that expression. So Charlie is expressive, and there's a lot going on. You have to remember that he absolutely adores his sister, would have done anything for her, obviously. And she is perceived, as we will learn, as the sort of like helpless princess baby of the family. And he continues to see her that way. It's very difficult, as you probably know from your own experience, to change early family dynamics. So that goes on throughout our entire life. Our relationships with our immediate family members are hardwired in pretty much by 7 years old. And so changing how we engage with our immediate family members is very difficult to do, even if you've been estranged for a period of time. Okay, that's because your brain knows exactly who they are. It's a relationship, and relationships get mapped and coded into your physiology. So as soon as your brain picks up on the context clues, right, the subtle sights and sounds and smells of that person, it goes right back into the old, oh, I know who this is. And you immediately start acting and shifting maybe your tone, shifting the way you engage them. Even the memories that you share will become more front of mind when you lay eyes on them.
In the fall of 2012.
Whose decision was it to separate?
It was my decision.
And was part of the reason for the separation the two of you having differing views on how to raise your kids as far as within the Jewish faith?
I mean, it was a small part, but it was part of it.
Okay, that seemed to be something that came up a lot in your communication, so that's why I asked about it. What was the difference of opinion on that?
Looking back, Rob and Haritha say there were warning signs right from the start, even at the wedding.
It felt strange. It was more of like
there was a lot of tension.
Yeah.
It was palpable. You could feel the tension between the two because there had been other events leading up to this. There was some discord already.
The wedding that others said was so beautiful.
To me, it seemed like a fairly conventional Jewish wedding. Lots of rabbis came, and there was dancing and smiling. She was a happy bride.
Although the Markels and the Adelsons were both paying for the wedding, it was Wendy's parents who'd hired the caterer. Dan had wanted the wedding to be strictly kosher, but
when he showed up to his own wedding, he learned that actually the wedding was not going to be kosher, and I think that was a very devastating moment for him.
Lasers, that's what it felt like a more like a bar mitzvah.
And they remember the kosher mix-up really well.
He had a rabbi friend who was there, he was close to from Harvard, and apparently at some point there was a platter of food where the meat was with the cheese and he lost it. And he said, "Meat and cheese, Danny," and he stormed out. And did he say something like, "I told you you should never be marrying her"? If only they had listened.
I mean, when we first met and started dating, Danny wasn't as observant or as religious as he became over time. And so the difference in our perspective on raising kids was about dietary choices and attendance at synagogue, things like that.
So in general, he wanted to raise the children more strictly in terms of the faith than you.
That is correct.
Did you move out of the marital home while Mr. Markel was away on a business trip?
I did, yes.
All right. And did he know that you were moving out when he left for the business trip?
No, he did not.
Where did you go when you left the marital home?
I rented a home in Tallahassee.
Where was that?
So you notice just, again, the way she's speaking. I rented a home in Tallahassee. Right? It's very cutesy. It's very proper. And that is intentional.
Do you remember the address?
Aqua Ridge Way.
3303, sound right?
That's right.
Okay. And what was the custody arrangement once you moved out of the marital home?
I mean, in the beginning, until we had a formal custody arrangement, we were just finding ways to share custody. I remember that first weekend his parents came, so I made sure he had the children all weekend while his parents were visiting from Canada. But eventually we had a 50-50 shared custody arrangement.
And interestingly, throughout this testimony, she presents herself as accommodating, as trying to make sure not to take the children away from Dan Markel, despite the fact that their relationship is falling apart. She presents herself as more of the victim, and you're going to hear this theme throughout, right? That Wendi just really never did anything wrong and never mistreated Danny, but Danny was the monster. He was Jibbers, right? And while it's funny and I'm laughing, it's of course horrible and not funny at all. As much as it seems like impossible that a incredibly well-educated...
You went to a public high school?
I did.
You did pretty well in high school, right?
I was valedictorian.
But around a year or two before you went to college, your father was a victim of a Ponzi scheme, correct?
It was actually when I was in 8th grade.
And he lost much of his wealth.
He lost his whole life savings.
You still went to a prestigious college up in Boston, right?
I got a full scholarship.
And then when it came time to go to law school, did you pay for law school?
I got a full scholarship.
You're a smart person, right?
How am I supposed to answer that?
Well, let's go through your resume. You went to Brandeis University, right?
I did.
You graduated magna cum laude.
I did.
If you could explain to the jury what that means.
It means I studied a lot and got good grades.
All right. It means, and to speak, I'm from the Northeast. My Boston accent may give it away. It means you're wicked smart, right?
That's very
You had a
nice.
high
Thank
GPA,
you.
a very high GPA.
I work hard.
You also went and you got a master's degree from the University of Cambridge.
I did.
You were a Gates Scholar.
I was.
You then go to the University of Miami School of Law, which is a top-tier law school, Tier 1, right?
Okay.
Right? We're talking about your level of intelligence. You went to the University of Miami Law School, right?
I did, yes.
You also clerked at the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, right?
I did.
Now, to get a clerkship out of law school, it's a very difficult thing to do, right?
It's challenging.
You have to have top grades. You have to go through a rigorous selection process, right?
Yes.
You then become a professor at the Florida State University College of Law, right?
Yes.
You're also a published author, right?
Now you're just embarrassing me.
Why are you embarrassed that you're a published author?
I don't like talking about myself.
Is it because the book that you wrote discredited Tallahassee and spoke ill of it?
The book did not discredit Tallahassee. It wasn't about Tallahassee.
Let's stay on topic and ask the question again with everything that we just went through. You're a smart woman, right?
I am a smart woman.
There's information about this case everywhere. You'd agree with me on that, right?
I'd been advised by my lawyer not to read it.
All right. Now, we're not talking about reading stuff. There's podcasts,
Also not to listen.
TV shows,
Also not to watch.
articles.
Don't read.
And so you've made the decision. Now, you're a lawyer yourself too, right?
I am.
And you made the decision, I'm not going to look at any of this stuff.
Correct.
I don't want to know what happened to the father of my 2 children.
Not I don't want to know what happened.
How can you say you love those boys if you don't care who killed the father that they loved?
Of course I care who killed the father that they loved.
Incredibly accomplished in her own right, beautiful woman could be this ridiculous. When you start to look and get more information about this family dynamic, it actually makes a whole lot more sense.
All right, and do you remember exactly what that looked like? Was it week on, week off, or something more complicated?
It was something more complicated. In the summertime, it was week on, week off. During the weeks, it was I think what they called like a 2-2 split, with Wednesday night being an overnight and then the weekends being every other weekend.
All right, but roughly 50-50.
50-50, but that was the split.
Okay. And I want to show you what's been introduced into evidence, State's Exhibit 56. You've had a chance to take a look at this before, but if you'll just kind of come through it and tell me if you recognize it.
Sure.
I don't know if that entire binder is their divorce agreement, but when I first saw that, I thought, oh my God.
Do you recognize the exhibit?
That's one hell of a divorce.
Is it a fair and accurate copy of your divorce file?
It looks like it, yes.
All right. And is it fair to say this was a contentious litigation process that you had with your ex?
It was.
And I want to ask you about a specific filing in there. It's begins on page 43. And it's in reference to a filing on January 14th of 2013 where you were looking to relocate with the minor children. Do you recall that particular filing?
I recall the filing. You said 43. I'm not sure I'm... Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. On the bottom, there should be page numbers for you.
Yes. Yes, I recognize it.
Okay, and that's the filing in reference to your motion for relocation?
Yes.
Okay, and did you file this motion with the intent to not be successful?
I'm sorry, I don't
It's been
understand the
suggested that you never thought that was going to be successful. Did you?
I thought there was a small chance that it would be successful, but not very likely, no.
Okay. And weren't you thinking,
Well, I mean, this is complicated, right? So what we're going to see here is Wendi Adelson, while she can't be prosecuted for anything that she says here, remember, she is hyper aware that she's sitting across from her brother in the courtroom, and she does not want her brother, or her mother for that matter, prosecuted, right? I mean, she doesn't want them convicted and behind bars. So that is what is informing a lot of her statements. And if we had more time and maybe in a different video, I will show you some of the differences in the way she answers pretty much the exact same questions in prior testimony where it's not her brother or her mother who are on trial.
maybe Danny would be happy working somewhere else because he's mentioned applying elsewhere, so maybe he'll allow the relocation. Were you thinking that?
He and I talked about the relocation. So when we talked about it, he thought, well, if I can live nearby in Miami, that might work, and then I could commute to FSU. I didn't mean for him to leave FSU, but he wanted to leave FSU at some point, so that was just a matter of time.
So you thought it might be successful?
Sure, I mean, I thought it was possible, but not likely.
All right, and page 46.
So I thought it was possible, but not likely. Bing, 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 bing.
Of that document, paragraph E references
Some eye shielding.
the job offer. The wife also desires to relocate to South Florida in order to provide a better quality of life for the children.
So there's some swallowing going on there. This is going to get a little bit heated for everybody now because, of course, this was the big issue that mom was totally obsessed with. And yeah.
by increasing their access to close family and providing more stability and consistency. Who is the close family in South Florida?
The close family would have been my mom and my dad and my brother.
And which brother is that?
My brother that's here today.
Charlie Adelson?
That's correct.
Okay.
So, she doesn't even want to say his name. So she's trying to put some distance between her and her brother. She can't even say Charlie Adelson. She says, my brother who's here today. And I think that probably wounds him a little bit. Certainly, these are not dum-dums, right? These are not Colin Albert here, right? These are very, very smart and accomplished individuals who understand or at least have a basic awareness of the details, what's going on here. Remember, she's an attorney, although I think she is a immigration lawyer. Wendy's a trained attorney, so she understands the nature of the questions, the reason why they're being asked. And Charlie is no dum-dum. So they are savvy to why the prosecutor might be asking certain questions, and he's aware of why his sister might deflect in certain areas, specifically in her testimony.
What's your mom's name?
My mom's name is Donna.
Donna Adelson.
Okay. I cannot stress how important this moment is. The second Donna's name is brought up, Charlie shuts his eyes. And pay close attention to Wendy's vocal inflection as we now get into email messages from mom to Wendi, specifically on the topic of relocation.
Yes, that's her name.
What about your dad?
My dad's name is Harvey.
And where did Donna and Harvey live back?
So you notice he starts rocking himself there, which is a way that we try to comfort ourselves. Think about how we rock babies to sleep. So he hears his dad's name and he starts kind of rocking.
And how far do they live away from you currently as we sit here today?
Currently, depends on Miami traffic, but anywhere between 15 minutes and an hour.
All right. And what kind of a relationship do you have with your parents as we sit here today?
I have a good relationship with my parents.
And has that...
Okay. So she tilts her head, and now she's starting to speak more in a whisper. I have a good relationship with my parents. Blink, blink, blink. That's going to continue.
Always been the case?
I would say so.
Okay. I would say so. So that's not a yes. That's a I would say so.
Can you describe the relationship that your mom has with your boys?
I think it's very loving. I think she's a very dedicated grandmother.
I'm a domestic coordinator.
Look at that. There's some eye shielding. So I don't mean to laugh, but I'm not saying that Wendi doesn't believe what she's saying, but there's some sensitivity here. And these questions are starting to become more loaded, right? Remember, many things can be true at the same time.
She spends a lot of time with them, doesn't she?
She does, yeah.
And when they were little...
She does, yeah. Right, so her voice is getting higher and she's starting to whisper.
When you first moved there after Danny's death, how much time was she spending with them?
When I moved there after Danny's death in 2014.
How much time was your mom spending with the boys?
I mean, we were all living together at that point. So, we were spending every day together.
How were your parents employed? Are they retired now?
They're retired now.
What are they retired from?
My dad was a dentist, and my mom used to coordinate, kind of be like an office administrator at his practice.
I'm a domestic coordinator. I'm responsible for the activities, classes, and lessons of my husband Harvey, who's in the audience.
And did she write the checks at the practice? Paychecks?
Yes. Mm-hmm. She handled all the bookkeeping.
What was the name of the practice?
The name changed.
So remember how she defines herself on Wheel of Fortune. And the reason that that is so important is because she took a very long time to come up with that statement. She knew she was going to be on Wheel of Fortune, obviously. And so we know that when Donna Adelson presented herself on Wheel of Fortune, as silly and trite as it may seem, everything you saw was carefully calculated and scripted. Okay? So what we know about the Adelson family, about mom, is that they're from Miami or right outside of Miami. Now, if you've ever spent any time in Miami, then you know, particularly in the upper echelon of financial success, Miami is a very superficial place. And I'm not crapping on Miami. It's a perfectly fun and nice place, beautiful hotels, nice beaches, whatever. But it is extraordinarily superficial. It's one of the only beaches, including parts of California, Los Angeles, where you really feel like if you're on the beach, you have to be wearing some kind of a diamond tennis bracelet, because there's such a focus on how people are dressed, what bags they're wearing, how put together they are. And Donna Adelson is the full embodiment of that stereotype. She has 3 children. The oldest is a doctor up in Albany. Charlie was a very successful dentist in his own right at one point, and worked really hard too, mind you, right? These are not people who were afraid to work. And then there's Wendi. Well, maybe we should give you a little backstory on them.
Rob Adelson is the good Adelson. Rob is the oldest child of Donna and Harvey, and he's in the far left of the picture. Rob is an ENT doctor on the East Coast. Donna and Harvey were always adamant with their children that they needed to marry within the Jewish faith. Rob broke up with the love of his life and ended up marrying a Jewish lady. They didn't last. It was a short marriage, and Rob was back with his original love, an Indian woman. And supposedly the whole family accepted it and all was well. And these are just some photos from the wedding, and it looks like that is Charlie with his parents. Wendi and Rob used to be really close. After Dan's unaliving,
It was just a few weeks later that Rob and Haritha got the phone call that Dan had been shot.
Donna called me on Saturday morning. I think she had already tried Rob and couldn't get through.
Yeah, she had texted me a couple. I was at a meeting out of town. I was in Chicago. And when they spoke to me, they told me they'd already talked to Haritha. They texted me a couple times, and then they texted me they need to talk to me right now.
Rob excused himself from his meeting and stepped outside.
And I remember exactly where I was standing in the lobby, and they explained that something has happened. Somebody shot Danny, and they took him to the hospital, but he didn't make it.
He tried calling Wendi.
I called her multiple times. I called my parents multiple times. Finally, she actually called me at a strange time during the day when I happened to be free, and I picked up the phone, and she said she didn't want to talk about anything because her kids were around.
She seemed surprised he was available.
Yeah, she said she really just wanted to leave a message. And I said, well, you called me, and, I asked her point blank, what do you think happened? And her response was, well, Danny had no shortage of enemies. But that's the most we've talked about it. And that's one of 2 conversations we've had since Danny was killed.
Later, Rob would want to talk more with his family about what happened to Dan.
They just didn't want to talk about it.
They kept saying that it doesn't involve them, and that Wendi felt that I was only interested in who would have done this, which seems like a normal reaction when someone you know well is gunned down in their home. I think not being interested in a murder of someone you know well is unusual.
He never did get a straight answer from his family, which shocked him. And as affidavits appeared, suggesting members of his family may have ordered Dan's murder, Rob stopped speaking with them altogether. It's been years since Rob Adelson has spoken with his little sister.
I would certainly wish things were a different way.
So I just want to cut away to that so you can get a better sense of who Wendi Adelson is and just juxtapose that against what you're about to see.
And did she write the checks at the practice? Paychecks?
Yes. Mm-hmm. She handled all the bookkeeping.
Now, of course, once the kids are all grown up, what does Donna Adelson turn her attention to? Managing their money. And my God, that is just so apropos for who this woman is, especially once the father's life savings was squandered by a Ponzi scheme. My guess is Donna Adelson took full control of the money after that.
I think the business did well for a period of time.
About $2 million in profit each year between 2013 and 2016, sound
They
right?
never talked to me about money, so I have no idea how much the business made.
And I think that's true. I don't think that, based on what I now know about the family, that they would have spoken to Wendi, the baby princess, about money.
At any given point.
Did you discuss your marital problems with your mom at all?
I did, yeah.
Okay. What about the resulting legal issues? Was your mom read in on those things?
I mean, I definitely updated her about the results of the relocation when that petition got denied, but not kind of the ins and outs of every part of our divorce.
What about your...
For them, the wedding also gave an indication of just how controlling Wendi's parents could be.
This wedding was like it was Donna's wedding. Wendi was in law school and she really didn't care. She apparently had once said that she just wanted to get married on the beach. She had told Rob that. Instead, she was married in a very elaborate Orthodox wedding with, I think, maybe 8 or 9 bridesmaids. And so this was the opposite of that. But all the details were really made by Donna.
And that, Haritha says, carried on right through the divorce.
They were very involved in the marriage, and they were definitely involved in the divorce. It was really felt like it was their divorce.
As we learn more about the family dynamics, Wendi Adelson would have a propensity and really a PhD in being able to rationalize, minimize, and deny the degree to which mom is involved in her life, to minimize and deny mom's crazy behavior. So Wendi is going to be expert at that. So it's very unsurprising that you're going to hear threads of that throughout the testimony.
Your dad, was he invested in your divorce status?
I think the same as my mom, just worried about me and worried about the boys.
Mm-hmm. What about your brother? Did he take an interest in the ins and outs of your divorce?
No, not really.
Did he need to protect you from Dan Markel?
No, I mean, I don't think I need protection.
Were you physically?
Okay. Note that she doesn't answer that question. She actually minimizes the degree to which her brother tried to protect her here, because we know, even from her own prior testimonies, that he was very protective over her. So this is his trial, and she doesn't want to present him that way. So she ignores the question, and rather than answer about the time in the past that the prosecutor is asking about, she instead responds with, "No, I don't think I need protecting now." And of course, no, she doesn't need protecting now because Dan Markel has been effectively eliminated from her life, right? So she deflects here.
In danger from Dan Markel?
No, I wasn't in danger.
Did the litigation revolving...
And when she says, "No, I wasn't in danger," that answer comes right after a question about her physical well-being. So while she's saying, "No, I wasn't in danger," she's able to say it that way because she's referencing the prior question about her physical well-being. So no, he wasn't physically violent. But when you learn more about how contentious this became, Dan was pissed that Wendi was leaving him. I mean, furious. So he was really, I don't want to say out to get her, but venomous in his divorce proceedings. He at one point tries to keep Donna from seeing the children, tries to limit her to supervised visitation. And
around the divorce and the subsequent issues that arose, did that impact your family back in South Florida?
I mean, only to the extent that I think they felt bad for what I was going through, but...
I want to show you an
And again, this is minimizing.
exhibit that I've marked as State's Exhibit 59. Sorry, 57, Your Honor.
And you'll note that there are a number of times where Charlie can't really look at her. And to me, that indicates shame, because he absolutely knows the reality of the situation. He knows what was going on. He knows how his mother is. And there are moments, particularly now that we're about to get into evidence that indicates or that gives us more insight into Donna, you'll note that he's sort of looking down, looking away, can't look at his sister.
Does that one look familiar?
I don't remember it, to be honest. It's from 10 years ago.
Take a moment to look through it.
Sure.
That's minimizing.
When you're done, I'll let opposing counsel take a look at it, but go ahead and let us know when you're done reviewing it. All right, are those emails between you and your mother?
I don't think I responded. I think they're just emails from my mom to me.
Okay. Mostly all from your mom?
Yeah.
Okay, and the email address says, I think it's something like Wendi Harvey. Can you tell from the content that it's your mom typing rather than your dad?
Yeah, the email's Donna Harvey, my two parents' names, so they've been married over 50 years, so they have a joint email address. So it's from both of them.
Okay.
It's not completely unheard of for couples that have been married for 50 years to have an email address that includes both of their names. But she's minimizing here by trying to put forth that it's not just mom that these emails represent. They were from dad too. Now, it's certainly the case that Donna often spoke on behalf of Harvey also. That's without a doubt, given what we know of Donna. But there's also no question who wrote these messages. So it's a little misleading here, the way Wendy's presenting this, because she's trying to say, oh, well, it represents my father's voice too, but she's very well aware that this is all mom.
I read it real fast,
Kind
but
of scanned.
I can read it.
And what I want to draw your attention to is specifically the part that reads, your father has made numerous trips by plane for weekends and changing the patient's schedules around so he can continue to spend significant time with the children.
Are you objecting to Ross?
I just didn't hear it getting any evidence.
Judge, at this time I'd ask to move this exhibit into evidence.
No objection.
Okay, so I'm going to play this again in its entirety because this message gets interrupted by the defense attorney. But I want you to listen very carefully to what mom is saying in this message.
The part that reads, your father has made numerous trips by plane for weekends and changing the patient's schedules around so he can continue to spend significant time with the children. Thank you. So that paragraph, isn't that paragraph going into detail about how the issues surrounding your divorce and litigation is financially impacting in a negative way your parents' business?
Mm-hmm. Funny reaction there from Charlie.
Here, yes.
Okay. And
I want to show you this again, this look from Charlie after the prosecutor asks, is this a message from your mother who is trying to help you in the hearing to relocate the children? So I'm just going to want you to take a closer look at this reaction from Charlie.
Issues surrounding your divorce and litigation is financially impacting in a negative way your parents' business?
Yeah.
That's what my mom says here, yes.
Okay, and it also says, additionally, this loss of income affects my family because my older brother, also a dentist, purchased the practice from my father in mid-July 2012. He has a monthly payment to make to my father based on the sale of the practice. It isn't fair to him to have decreasing monthly income statements from the practice due to my parents spending so much time here in Tallahassee. So this is an argument that your mom is proposing, right, to help you, give you an idea of what might persuade the courts to allow the relocation. Do you agree with that?
Yes, that's what she was doing, yes.
Your father has made numerous trips by plane for weekends and changing the patient's schedules around so he can continue to spend significant time with the children. Additionally, this loss of income affects my family because my older brother, also a dentist, purchased the practice from my father in mid-July 2012. He has a monthly payment to make to my father based on the sale of the practice. It isn't fair to him to have decreasing monthly income statements from the practice due to my parents spending so much time here in Tallahassee.
Man, is this email telling. So first off, remember the prosecutor is presenting this because she's trying to say your mom was so invested in this relocation that she, was writing you these kinds of messages. But what we are now learning about Donna Adelson is that she is completely and totally enmeshed. This is extraordinarily significant. I cannot stress to you how important it is that this is evidence of how enmeshed Donna Adelson is with her children. And what that means is she does not register boundaries. So why am I saying that? To Donna Adelson, this message indicates that she thinks it's common sense, completely legitimate to expect a court to see it as equal that Dan Markell, the father of these two children who currently has 50% custody, should weigh the welfare, the financial welfare of Wendy's brother, Charlie, and how inconvenienced the grandfather is that Charlie is going to be losing money in the value of this investment that he's purchased from his parents. And the fact that grandpa, Wendy's father, Charlie's father, has to fly to Tallahassee, which takes him away from building the practice. Grandma Donna is saying that these two things are equivalent, that the judge should weigh the inconvenience of Wendy's brother as equal to Dan Markell's ability to see his children every day, to raise his children. So that gives you some sense of just how unwell Donna Adelson is. It's a little clue, a window into her psyche that couldn't be more significant. What that says is she does not register boundaries in her children's lives. She sees her responsibility as micromanaging and controlling every aspect of their lives. I mean, that's what it says. It says that she does not register that there is separation between her and her children, right? Now, look, as parents, is it challenging to know how to match our parenting style to the developmental needs of our children as they get older? Of course. Are there times, let's say that your 26-year-old has some big injury and you might fly or go to wherever they live to try to take care of them, to wait on them hand and foot? Of course. But we are not talking about a terminally ill parent that might, bring more weight to an argument, that might legitimize an argument for her, Wendi, to be able to move closer to be with her parents. That is not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the financial welfare of her brother. Okay? That is evidence of a very mentally unwell woman.
According to emails between Wendi and Donna, really became unhinged. Donna writing these really long, 8,000, 10,000 word emails.
You tell me what stands out to you. Hi, honey. Okay, just like it says on your necklace, never, never, never give up. It's time for action. It's time to take control of your life and not let Jibbers think he's just won anything by having you remain in Tallahassee, 8 hours away from the only family you have, and lose out on what will be the job that will afford you and your children advantages that they will never otherwise be able to enjoy. Let's show this beep what will make him absolutely miserable. You know his weak points: money, religion, control. You have 5 weeks before your court date, and that's underlined. I know you have a job that keeps you very busy. However, the rest of your life, which is bolded and underlined, and consequently, Dad's, mine, and yes, even Charlie's, will be affected by how well you can perform/act before July 31st. You can be a good actress when you want to. I've seen you in action. You need to put on the performance of your life. Jibbers hasn't beaten the Adelson family yet. You have a very strong family behind you. Just remember that. Dad and I have done everything we could to try to help you for the last 10 months. Now it's time to help yourself. We believe that you will be able to make this happen. If you can put these actions before, all caps, everything else this next month, and you know that you've only got the kids a limited number of days to do this, we believe that Jibbers will be saying, "Stop this," and you'll be telling him, "You wanted me in Tallahassee. My children are going to, quote, fit in the Bible Belt. They're going to church every time I have them. I'm having them privately tutored at home to get them caught up for the Sunday school classes that I've enrolled them in."
Okay, and she's indicating that both your parents as well as your brother have suffered financially as a result of you not being able to relocate.
Yes.
Okay. And on page... Do you have page numbers in the bottom right corner of your exhibit?
I have them in the top so I can see.
Okay, so 5.
So, and you'll notice that Wendi Adelson tries to normalize this. Like, she tries to make it seem like it's totally acceptable and normal behavior for a mother to be this invested in this hearing, in this relocation hearing, and to make these kinds of statements. And that is not an act, because she has become expert, probably since she's 2 years old, at doing that, at making mom's absolute crazy behavior okay somehow.
Well, let me look. Give me a moment. So it'll be the second email in your packet, page 1 of 3.
Okay.
Do you see that?
I see that page.
Okay, and there's a rest of your life highlighted or underlined in the center and in bold. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, right before that, it reads, however, the rest of your life and consequently Dad's, mine, and yes, even Charlie's will be affected by how well you can perform/act before July 31st. You need to be a good actress you can be a good actress when you want to. I've seen you in action. You need to put on the performance of your life. Jibbers hasn't beaten the Adelson family yet. Who's Jibbers?
So you see this look here. Charlie won't look up. He's not looking at his sister. You know, this is shame, right? I mean, what mom is doing here is insane in so many ways. So what Donna is saying is think about the pressure that Donna Adelson is placing on the shoulders of Wendi here. She is saying that the rest of your life, my life, your father's life, and Charlie's life is dependent on your ability to sell the need for this relocation. I've seen you do it, honey. You can be a good girl who can perform, right? And so what she's saying is you need to manipulate the judge however you can to allow you to move away. And when you listen carefully, and I'll play it again to the second half of this email, this statement by mom, it is so infantilizing. It is so babying, right? Jibbers hasn't beaten the Adelsons yet. Like, honey, you need to do this. So it's just placating. It is infantilizing, and it's a mismatch. You know, Wendi is an incredibly smart, accomplished attorney. She has a master's degree. This is not a woman who needs babying, and yet Donna Adelson in these messages is treating her like she's an infant, like she's a little girl. And that is a window into the way that Donna perceives her role in Wendi's life. Wendi would just fall apart, like she's this fragile, precious doll, and she would just disappear and fall. She would break into a million pieces without mom fixing everything for her. Like, it is not good. It is evidence of someone who's not entirely in touch with reality.
Jibbers, she's referring to Danny.
And was Jibbers a name he went by, or just something you called him behind his back?
Jibbers was a silly nickname that I gave him during the divorce proceedings when he was being pretty scary and threatening, and it kind of made me feel less scared of him.
And you'll see here that it's almost hard to believe that this grown woman, who's as accomplished as she is, could be this naive and this childlike. However, when it comes to the dynamic in this family, all indications are that this is the way Donna Adelson treated her. Like, Jibbers eased my anxiety because it made me feel safe when he was being mean and scary. The silly nickname made him seem less bad and scary. Right. And again, while it's hard to believe that she could turn into a 10-year-old or regress this much, one of the reasons why I think the regression is happening here with Charlie staring across from her, right, however 20 feet from her in the courtroom, is because of just that. She's got her older brother, her big protective older brother right across from her, and they're talking about mom's messages. So what we're seeing is a regression. If you consider after Dan Markel is killed, a year later, she changes the boys' names to Adelson. She gets rid of one of their Hebrew middle names. She does everything that she can. She cuts off the boys from their paternal grandparents who loved them and wanted nothing but to be in their lives. My guess, I would put all my money on that coming from Donna. That Donna was the one pushing for their name change, pushing for as much distance, essentially to cut Dan completely out of their psyche in any way, shape, and form. Donna Adelson is controlling on steroids. Control is how Donna Adelson alleviates any discomfort or anxiety. In other words, manipulating the people around her to do what she wants is how she manages discomfort.
Did she ever try to micromanage your life?
Maybe, yeah.
Wow, was that response telling? Take a look at that again.
Maybe, yeah.
It's like she pauses to try to find a way to answer no to that, but then almost can't find a way to do that. And then kind of looks at the prosecutor and says, like, obviously. And then says, a little, maybe, like the way a 4-year-old might respond, right? So there's clearly the duality of an awareness of how controlling and manipulative and micromanaging her mother is on one hand, but also a desire to want to minimize, deny, and rationalize that controlling and micromanaging behavior at the same time.
Maybe, yeah.
Did she have an interest in who you were dating and who you weren't dating and who you should be dating when you were single?
I think she was usually disappointed that I wasn't dating more.
Okay. For example, isn't it true that she would not let you drive to and from Tallahassee to South Florida?
Well, I used to drive before I had the boys, but they were young and she preferred to come with me and give me some extra support.
So what would that look like if you were going to take a trip to South Florida? Would they come up here and get you, or?
No, sometimes I would go myself with the kids, but I was breastfeeding both of them, so it usually looked like me breastfeeding a child while I entertained the other in the Okahumpka rest stop. So it was a lot. It was helpful to have some backup.
So again, this is a sign of minimizing. While I'm sure that this is true, right, that what she's saying is true, at least for a time, it turns out that we learn this was not just when the boys were little and she would have still been breastfeeding. This behavior is basically continued up until the death of Dan Markell, when the boys would have been old enough to no longer need that type of, constant and intensive attention from mom.
All right, and so that time frame you'd be referencing is like the 2013 time frame, because not around the time of Danny's death you wouldn't have still been breastfeeding, would you?
If Lincoln was 3, no, I would have stopped maybe the year before.
Okay.
So maybe 2012, 2013.
Okay, and wasn't it true that around the time of the death they were still doing this practice where they would prefer to drive you to and from South Florida?
I mean, not every time, but sometimes.
Okay. And would your mom sometimes enlist your brother Charlie to convince you to do certain things in your personal life?
Can't really think of an example of that.
So that's not a no.
Well, dating Dave was a big one on some of the materials I had.
Yeah, people like Dave.
All right, and your mom really liked Dave.
Yeah, everyone liked Dave, but we were just friends.
Okay. And did she try? So she would try to get Charlie to convince you to date a certain person.
I don't think she was getting Charlie to convince me to date Dave. I think everyone liked Dave.
All right. And would she try to get Charlie to convince you
right,
to?
So that's a pretty funny sequence right there, right? So we get to see Charlie's reaction to this question about liking Dave and trying to get the sister to date or consider dating Dave. So you see there that he's eye shielding as he's, trying to say, well, it wasn't mom that caused me to put pressure on my sister to date Dave. I liked Dave. And again, sort of misses the point that the norm in this family is to try to manipulate each other so that you do what we think is best for you.
Do certain things as far as your professional life, what jobs to take.
No, I don't think so.
Do that. Would she try to get Charlie to do certain things like advise you on?
So I don't have to know the details to know that absolutely Donna Adelson weighed in on every decision that Wendi Adelson probably has ever made in her whole life.
Investment decisions, whether or not you were going to buy a house, for example.
I don't think so. I don't remember that. Danny and I made that decision together.
Once you had left.
You see the head tilting, you hear the vocal inflections. I don't think so. Not a no, by the way.
Left Dan and you were living separately, did you look into purchasing a home here in Tallahassee?
I did, yeah.
And did your brother Charlie convince you not to do that?
Okay, so remember that when our stress levels go up, our mucous membranes dry out. So that's why we see the excessive blinking. That's why we see lip licking, or like when people try to have dry mouth and they wipe the sides of their mouth. Those are indications of stress. So what we're seeing here, as we're talking more about mom and how mom behaved, Charlie's starting to become more activated, more stressed.
I don't remember him convincing me not to. The only reason why I didn't was because I was waiting on the money from Danny from the settlement and he didn't pay it, so I couldn't afford the house.
So this is Wendy's moment to try to throw Dan under the bus. I guess that's to be expected.
Your mom didn't want you to buy the house, did she?
That's not true. My parents were looking to buy a house in Tallahassee as well.
Okay. Generally speaking, does your mom manipulate the personal lives of her children?
No.
Is your...
So she says no to that, but you'll notice it's like a no. Because that is not true. Absolutely. This woman not only manipulates the lives of her children, but thinks of it as her job, her responsibility, her obligation.
Donna Adelson from Coral Springs, Florida. I want to hear all about you, Donna. Let's go.
Well, I'm a domestic coordinator. I'm responsible for the activities, classes, and lessons of my son Robert, who is 16, Charlie, who is 12, Wendi, who is 10.
Mom, like if she's really upset about something or worked up about something, is that something that your brother Charlie's going to hear a lot about? Who's going to hear more of it, you or Charlie?
Well, if my mom's upset with me, probably Charlie. And if she's upset with Charlie, probably me.
Okay, so do you...
And you see there's some conflict here. So Charlie's trying not to react to that question because couldn't probably be overstated how true this is. However, he also then is distracted by thinking about how this dynamic played out, how much he did show care for his sister, who he loves, right? They're bonded around their crazy mother. So he's kind of fluctuating in his thinking between how crazy mom is and how exposing this is and trying not to react because he's got a jury staring at him, and then thinking in almost a fond way about the dynamic and the relationship between him and his sister.
Get a lot of that? Do you hear a lot about... Let's go back. Let's go to before the murder. Did you get a lot of Donna just giving you an earful about what Charlie needs to be doing?
Probably, at some point.
And what was Charlie?
Probably. That's deflection.
Doing with his personal life? What did his personal life look like?
At what point?
Before the murder.
I mean, at what period of time before?
All of them. Wasn't it just a revolving door of girlfriends?
Right, but my mom didn't complain to me about that.
She didn't mind that with him.
I don't understand the question.
She didn't mind if he
Yes,
went
you do.
from girl to girl to girl. That was acceptable.
She didn't really weigh in on it, no.
All right, so take a moment to think about why Donna Adelson wouldn't have complained about Charlie having a revolving door of women or like being the playboy and not looking to settle down and have children. Now, I think he does have a son out of wedlock. I'm not sure of the details of that, but why might Donna Adelson not be concerned about that? I feel like I should be playing the Jeopardy music here. So the reason why Donna Adelson would have no problem with Charlie playing the field and not getting serious in any way, settling down with a woman, is because Donna Adelson would have seen any woman in Charlie's life as competition, as somebody that could have taken him away from her, which is almost certainly the way that Donna perceives what happened with Rob, even though they had a reconciliation after she apparently disowns him for a period of time, even though the family ends up co-signing the marriage and everything is copacetic until the murder of Dan Markel. There is no question that Donna Adelson would have seen any woman in Charlie's life as a potential threat unless she knew that he wasn't serious about being in a relationship, because there are a few events in our lives as adults that are markers of independence where the relationship between us and our parents has an opportunity to shift from child to parent to more of, I don't want to say equals, but more like adult to adult. First, of course, is when a person gets married. And then the big one is when we have children of our own, because at that point, everybody kind of rallies together and is aligned at the well-being of the children, the grandchildren. So, of course, Donna does not want to see that happen to Charlie, because then she has no control over his decisions, over his life, over his behavior, and no competition, nobody to fight with for his attention, affection, and ultimately authority and control. That is how sick Donna Adelson actually is.
Who talked to her more, you or Charlie?
Charlie.
A lot more, right?
No.
Notice that she doesn't hesitate there. And on the other side of that, if Charlie is that enmeshed with his mother, he doesn't have space for a wife. He doesn't have space for an adult, intimate partner relationship because his mother is ultimately maintaining that position in his life. And again, not in a sexual way, but in a controlling, authoritative, decision-making way. Now, one more important detail that I don't want to forget to mention in this part of the testimony. You've probably heard the cliche that when we get into intimate partner relationships, we often will get into relationships that allow us to play out familiar dynamics from our, primary childhood, from the childhood familial dynamics. Now, some of you might already see this, but what's so incredibly obvious to me, the more I learn about the dynamics of Wendi and Dan's marriage, the more it mirrors Wendi's relationship with her mother. So it's incredibly unsurprising that Wendi would wind up in a marriage with somebody like Dan Markel. And it's funny because in Mom's letters, her description of Dan Markel certainly sounds an awful lot like the way you might describe her. So we call that in psychology projection. It's not that that makes what Mom is saying any less true necessarily. Dan may have been obsessed with money and religion and whatever, but it's that Donna would see those things magnified because she's not aware that those are the driving forces internally for her. So you have two people in Donna Adelson and in Dan Markel who are very concerned about appearances, who are perfectionists, who are controlling, who do have very high expectations for the people that they invite into their lives. Well, you be the judge.
Direct your attention to an interview that was conducted on, I think this was your law enforcement interview. So July 18th, 2014.
And anytime she's dishonest on the stand, misleading, minimizing, Charlie's going to know it better than anybody. He knows his mother probably better than Wendi, because Wendi, as the baby, is in a fair amount of denial about Mom's behavior. Charlie, on the other hand, probably isn't. And you have to consider how these two have learned to deal with Donna. They both just kind of gave in, whereas Rob completely separated himself, right? He just removed himself. He's what we might call an avoidant attachment style, meaning when there's anxiety, when there's discomfort, his thing is like cut and run. Whereas these two tried to manage Donna, right? They probably felt tremendous guilt about leaving her, and so ultimately tried in their own way to manage her. Wendi did it psychologically with rationalization, minimizing, denial, defense mechanisms. Charlie, in all likelihood, did it with his behavior. He tried to appease Mom by being there for her, taking her phone calls, doing what she wanted. And so why would he hire a hitman? Probably from, this is going to sound crazy, but probably from Charlie's perspective, to shut his mother up, because he would have been the one dealing with the incessant, non-stop nagging and badgering and having to hear about Dan Markel day after day after day.
I want to talk to you about your relationship with your parents as an adult. Fair to say you're close with your mom and dad?
Yes.
As an adult, how often would you talk with your mom and dad?
I would talk to my mom more often, a lot more often, just because my dad was always working. But I talk to my mom every day.
Once a day or multiple times?
At least once a day, but most likely probably twice a day, because there was always, usually one thing was a personal thing and one thing was something having to do with the office or scheduling or something like that.
During the 2014 timeframe when you owned the office, did your mom work for you?
You could say that. Yeah.
Did she control the books?
She wrote the checks. Yeah, they had the checkbook at the house. She helped me with all my financial stuff as far as like paying insurances, making stuff, anything that was due at a certain time, licenses. She paid salaries at the office, and then also did front desk.
Was there any particular time that you would talk to your mom more often than other times?
Yeah, in the morning driving into work, I'd call my mom, and usually on the way home from work, I'd call them. Just depends on how long the drive was, really.
How involved was your mom in your life?
Business-wise, very involved, because she was running the office. Personal-wise, I would tell them things and keep them up to date with stuff and my life. But it was my life. I did whatever I wanted to do.
We're going to get to this later, but how involved was your mom in your sister's life?
I think she was more involved. I think my sister involved my mom maybe more. And it just depends on different issues.
I want to talk a little bit about your sister, Wendi. As adults, before she married Professor Markel, how often would you talk with her?
I'd call my sister, I'd say about every 10 days or so we'd talk. I'd call her, but she was busy and she wasn't real good with the phone. So I would call her, and she would always take a day or two to call me back. I spoke to her half the time when I called. Half the time she didn't pick up.
How often would you see her again?
I've got it open to the page, but you can flip it if you need to familiarize yourselves. And I'll take that exhibit if you want.
All right, so now we're going to shift gears and we're going to get into some of the statements that Wendi made during her interrogation. So that is where we will pick up in our next video. But make no mistake about it, Donna Adelson is a very unwell person. And if anybody is responsible for how this situation unfolded, it is something that was probably in the works from the time these kids were born, because she is so micromanaging, so controlling, so unwell psychologically, that the pressure, the way that she sees her children as not only responsible for every aspect of their lives and well-being, but that they are responsible for hers, that they have an obligation to put on their shoulders her well-being, their father's well-being, their sister or brother's well-being, depending on who we're talking to and about, for the rest of their lives. That is exactly what Donna Adelson tells us in her email messages to Wendi as she's trying to nag her to perform, to sell to the judge why he should allow a relocation.
It is the defense counselor's duty to protect the rights of the individual, as it is the prosecution's duty to uphold and defend the laws of the state. Justice for all. Only we have a problem here.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross about the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright.